Now we begin Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis. The Gemara rejects this proof that Tana Bashir from Erev Pesach. No. Imishum Erev Pesach Lav Shiru. That's not considered that the Tana left out a day. You cannot prove that the Tana left out an opportunity for 48 Theos by leaving out Erev Pesach. Dohamani. Our Mishnah reflects the Shita Rabbi Yehuda. And now again, we're going back to the Succah in Psachim Samach Dalet Siyata D'Shmaya. And Rabbi Yehuda says that the Jewish people never tolerated three kippurs. Now, in our modern contemporary life, it's very dangerous to say what I'm about to say, because we know what happens when people push and, benches break and so forth, stampedes. But Rabbi Yehuda said the following, and I can't rewrite the script. Rabbi Yehuda says that there never was a third kat, because the last thing you wanted to be is delegated to the third kat. And the third kat would always push themselves in to make sure that they got in together with either the first or the second kat. The Omar, the Mayhem shell, and here we would add two words, Makrive Hapsochim, Kachlishis lo higia. There was never a Kachlishis during all the period of time of the Akrava of Korban Pesach. They would always make sure that they would get in either through in the first or in the second kat. Lomar, and this reflects the pasuk in Tehillim, Hafti ki yishma Hashem, that when a person has love of God, he's going to make that extra effort. And if there were any members of the third kat, mu'atim, there was just a very small number. So that the shchitas hapsachim was completed before they got to this statement of a hafti ki yishma, which is towards the beginning, or call it the middle, of Halal. It comes out, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that the third kat would only blow 3 tkiyos when they began to recite Hallel on the first round. They never got to recite Hallel a second time or a third time. So on Erev Pesach, because of Shchitas HaPesach and Kriyas HaHallel, there was only an addition of 21 tkiyos. That was where they maxed out for the Shchitas HaPesach. Now, if you add 21 to the 21 of every day of the year, you end up with 42, not 48. So therefore, if the Mishnah reflects the Shita Rabbi Yehuda, then since we never had a case where they got to Kriyas HaHallel and they recited Ahavti Ki Yishma Hashem, and they weren't yet blowing the tkiyos, therefore we can only max out at 42. And the Gemara rejects this. No, that's not a valid point. I'm going to prove to you that our Mishnah is not in line with Rabbi Yehuda. For Amrit, back on Daf Nun Gimel Amid Beis, when we studied the Reish of our Mishnah, and the Mishnah mentions all those days where they blew 21 tkiyos. And how did they get to the number 21? They can only get to the number of 21 if they count a tekiah as one blast, a trua as another blast, and the closing tekiah as a third blast. And if you multiply that, 1, 2, 3, then you end up with 21 tekiyos. And if that be the case, then the Mishnah could not reflect the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda, the Loka Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda, if you recall, says that you have to blow a tkiya, true and tkiya as part of one entity without any pause whatsoever in between. And he derives from psukim that it's one entity. So Rabbi Yehuda, therefore, would reduce the number 21 down to 9. So the Gemara says that's not a point. It's very possible that although the Tana of our Mishnah rejects Rabbi Yehuda with regard to counting Tkiya, Trua, and Tkiya as one, because our Mishnah is going to count Tkiya, Trua, and Tkiya separately, but nevertheless, our Mishnah might very well accept Rabbi Yehuda on one point, namely that the Kat Shlishis would only recite Hallel once. So if that be the case, then you have no proof. 1 second. Oh, so now, again, you have to go through the calculation of the Shaklavitaria, but now the Gemara is saying that the original Dechia that we rejected, we slugged it up, and we said that Erev Pesach is not a proof because, in fact, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there were only 42 Tkiyos in Erev Pesach, not 48, is now we've rejected that because it's very possible that our Tana accepted Rabbi Yehuda bechada and rejected Rabbi Yehuda bechada, which means that it accepted Rabbi Yehuda that there were only 42 tkiyos. Because Rabbi Yehuda on Erev Pesach says that they never had the third kat read Hallel 3 times. And if that be the case, then we still have not found any calendar day which the Mishnah omitted that has a maximum of, that has more than the maximum of 48 tkiyos. So now we go back to the drawing board to come up with a case of Chia. And the Gemara says, Erev Pesach Shachalios be Erev Shabbos. If the 14th of Nisan falls on a Friday, in such a case, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that they would blow 48 tkiyos. Why? Apik Shis be Ayel Shis. We're going to remove 6 tkiyos because Rabbi Yehuda holds that on Erev Pesach, the 14th of Nisan, there was no two extra sets of chatzotzos of the kachliches. So we minus 2 sets of chatzotzos of kachliches according to Rabbi Yehuda, and that means we have to minus 6 tkiyos. But the ayel shish, now we're going to add 6 tkiyos because of Erev Shabbos. Because on Erev Shabbos, they had to do 1 set of 3 tkiyos to tell the people to come out of the fields and cease their agricultural malacha. And then there was another set of tkiyos, lahavdil ben kodesh l'chol, immediately before sunset. So it comes out that in this case of Erev Pesach Chalios Erev Shabbos, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that they blew 49 tkiyos. So we have already a precedent for Shir. And that's going to answer our original question. Why didn't the Mishnah mention Rosh Hashanah? Because our Mishnah is operating with the principle of Tana v'Shir. The Mishnah says, Ein mosifan al goyim shmona tkiyos b'yom echad. The maximum is 48. Frek the Gemara v'lo. Is it really true that we max out at 48? V'a'iko, what about the case of Erev Pesach shechalios b'Shabbos? If Erev Pesach is on Shabbos, the Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that the Kat Shlishis on Erev Pesach only blew once, 1 set of 3, because they never got to read the Hallel a second or a third time. Then we would blow on Erev Pesach Shechalios B'Shabbos Kamchin Vechada 51 tkiyos. Let's calculate. 21 tkiyos for every day of the year. 9 tkiyos for the Musafim of Shabbos. So now we add 9 to 21, and we arrive at 30. Now, let's go through the tkiyos of the Hallel, because again, we're talking Erev Pesach, Shechaliyos B'Shabbos. So it's Erev Pesach. We have an additional 18 tkiyos according to Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because we have the first two kitos and the first set of the third kita. So now let's calculate. We started with 21. That's every day of the year. We added 9 tkiyos for the Musaf of Shabbos. We already jacked it up to 30. And now we have another 18 for the 9 times 3 kriyos of Kat Rishon and Kat Shniya. And now Rabbi Yehuda has another set of 3 tkiyos for the Kat Shlishis. That's going to tip you over the brim from 48 to 51. The Ira Banan. And if you're going according to the Chacham who say that even Kat Shlishis read Hallel 3 times, and if they too, the Kat Shlishis had 3 sets of 3 tkiyos. So then we're going to add 9, 9, and 9, which is 27, and add that to the 30 tkiyos, 21 for the regular day, and 6 tkiyos for Shabbos. That gives you 30. Just 1 second. Did I get that right? 21. No. 1 second. We have, just 1 second. I'm sorry. So we have the 21 of the regular weekday, plus we have the 9 of Musaf because it's Shabbos. That gives me 30. And now we have 9 times 3 is 27. So how much is 30 and 27? 57. Did I get that right? Kamshin, Visheva, 57. So in the case of Erev Pesach Shechaliyos B'Shabbos, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we end up with 51. And according to the Chachamim in Pesachim Daf Samach Daled, we end up with 57. Confused here. Why is the Gemara bothered by this? We just finished saying Tana Vashir. All right, I have to get back to you on that question. Okay, anyway. So the Gemara answers, don't prove anything from the absence of Erev Pesach Shechaliyos B'Shabbos. We're only dealing with days that are written in stone in the Hebrew calendar. Buy your calendar and you'll find that day. But you won't find Erev Pesach Shechaliyos B'Shabbos, not in the standard calendar. It will come out every so often. But less of B'chol Shana V'Shana. Our Mishnah is only considering those days and kios that are written in, that are engraved in stone in the Hebrew calendar, but something that's not b'chol shana v'shana, like Erev Pesach Shechaliyos B'Shabbos, lo k'tani. So the Gemara doesn't like this answer. How can you tell me the Mishnah did not calculate? Unless it was b'chol shana v'shana, atu Erev Pesach v'socha chag mi'isa b'chol shana. The Mishnah gives the example of Erev Pesach on Sukkot. It's not always so. You can have Sukkot without Erev Shabbos in the middle of the Chag. For example, Atu Erev Shabbos Shemtocha Chag Mi'isa B'chol Shana. You cannot guarantee that Erev Shabbos in the middle of Sukkot will happen every year. I'll give you a scenario in which you will not have Erev Shabbos in the middle of Sukkot. If the first day of Sukkot is on a Friday, and we don't blow on Yontif the 12 tkiyos that we normally blow before Nisach HaMayim, because those tkiyos do not override Shabbos and they don't override Yontif. So therefore, in a year in which Yontif is on Erev Shabbos, is Erev Shabbos of Chag HaSukkos would only have 36 kilos. So the Gemara answer is, well, wait a minute. Yontiv Rishon Shel Sukkos could never be Chal on Erev Shabbos. Why? He mikla Yontiv Rishon Erev Shabbos, if it would come out according to the calendar, and the Beis Din knew this in advance, that the first day of Yontif would fall on an Erev Shabbos, midchei dachinah, they would guarantee that that would not happen. They would push it off. Beis Din dochen oso sheyochol b'Shabbos. They would guarantee that Yontif Rishon would not be on a Friday, but rather be on Shabbos. We'll see why. And how do they achieve that goal? Ma'abrim es chodesh el. They guaranteed that El would be Mullah, would have 30 days, and that would push the calendar by 1 day, so that Yontif Rishon would not be on an Erev Shabbos, but rather on Shabbos. Well, let me just read to you the Yad David. He enhances our understanding of this Gemara. He says, "L'chatchila ein otzim es El me'ubar." And as a general rule, El is 29 days. It's not 30 days. And why is that? Kevan Shem Yabru Nimtza Shpnei Agola Lo Asu Rosh Hashanah Bizmana. So the Gemara calculates in Masechet Rosh Hashanah Daf Yutes Amid Beis that if El is Ma'ubar, then in Chutz La'aretz, because they don't know, they would not have Rosh Hashanah in its proper time. What do we do instead? Kodem El. They'll choose 1 month before El, so that El will not be Ma'ubar, and they'll be Ma'aber that month. My timer, says the Gemara, came under Ikla, Yontif Arishon Shel Chag. The first day of Yontif, which is on the 15th of Tishrei, Leos the Erev Shabbos, and if it would fall out on Erev Shabbos, then Yom HaKippurim Emes Havi. Let's calculate when Yom HaKippurim would fall out, because Yom HaKippurim is 5 days before Yom Tov Rishon Shel Sukkos, which is on the 10th of Tishrei. And then if you calculate backwards from Erev Shabbos, then it turns out that, again, we'd have to draw this in a calendar, then on Erev Shabbos, on Chad B'Shabbos, I meant to say, on Yom Rishon, it would be Chal, and Beis Din are not happy with the situation where Shabbos and Yom HaKippurim should be one to the other, one next to the other. And this is again based on a sugya in Rosh Hashanah Daf Chav. Shebizman shayu mekadshin sachodesh al pi molad al levana, Beis Din hayu yicholim la'aber sachodesh l'tzorah, v'af shebo edim sharoas al levana b'yom hashloshim v'nita l'kadesh sachodesh b'yom hashloshim hayu ma'aber mis'el sheyiyah shloshim yom rosh chodesh Tishrei yiyah rak l'mochras. Bekan b'mikra sheyetze Yom HaKippurim b'smichus l'Shabbos yesh tzarich la'aber es chodesh el bishum yarkia, which means shelo yisapshu ha'yiroko kasher Yom HaKippurim yochel achar Shabbos. It means there'll be 2 days straight. Af she'ein ochlim b'Yom HaKippurim tzarich li'aber bishum shekasher Yom HaKippurim Yom Rishon Rosh Hashanah v'yontif Rishon Shel Sukkos yachulu b'erev Shabbos. V'shuv yesh chashash ha'yirokos yisapshu b'yomayim. That on 2 occasions we'll have 48 hours of straight Yom, and we're afraid that the vegetables will spoil. And mishum masya shamesim lo yasrifu b'meshach yomayim. Because we cannot bury the dead on Saturday nor on Kippur. So if the Edom come and they say, we saw the Levana Yom HaShloshim on the 30th day of the month, Beis Din ma'ayimim aleim, sheach rishu, Beis Din warns them they better be quiet, v'lo ya'idu ken, v'fei sheyuchlu li'aber es ha'chodesh, lasos es Rosh Chodesh, rak l'mochras. So they would delay Rosh Chodesh until the next day. So So therefore, they would dolcha Yom Kippurim to a Monday. And how did they achieve that goal? By being ma'aber Elul, adding an extra day to Elul. And therefore, Yom Tov Rishon Shel Sukkot is now pushed off to Shabbos. So therefore, we will never have a situation where Yom Tov Rishon Shel Sukkot will be on Erev Shabbos, which means that on an annual basis, they would blow the shofar, the Chatzot, on Erev Shabbos B'toch HaChag, and they would reach the max of 48 kilos. Now the Gemara questions the premise that we've been operating with. Is it really true that we'll push off Yom Kippurim so that it wouldn't fall too close to Shabbos, and it wouldn't be on a Sunday? But Tanan, we have a Mishnah Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Gimel, Elvei Shabbos, Kravim, B'Yom Kippurim. That when you have the Ivarim of the Tovim Shel Ben Arbayim that was brought on Shabbos, you could be makriv them on the next day, which is Yom Kippurim, or shall we say the next night, which is Motzei Shabbos, and it's Yom Kippurim. So we see that we could have Yom Kippurim on a Sunday, and Memela, that means that Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag could come on an Erev Shabbos. And then we're back to our original kasha. Why didn't he mention the Tkios of Erev Shabbos B'toch HaChag? Kozer Sakusha Shelo B'chol Shana Hayu Arbayim U'Shmona Tkios B'Erev Shabbos B'toch HaChag. Because B'Shana Shechal Yom Tov Rishon B'Erev Shabbos is Hayu Pachos Tkios. There were less Tkios. And the Gemara says that is not the only kasha that we have. But furthermore, the Omar Rabbi Zera Ki Avinu Beirav Rav Bavel Havi Amri Hadesanya Yom Kippur Shechalios Erev Shabbos Lo Hayu Tokim, but B'Motzai Shabbos Lo Hayu Mavdilim. So we see clearly that you have a case of Yom Kippurim on Motzei Shabbos. So B'li tomorrow we'll fill in this last kasha as we start the shir. We ran out of time to finish it up. So let's just make a note of where we got to. We'll start with Umidachinam. That's why I think we should make our note here. Umidachinam. Now, in this case, because the daf is so extensive, I don't know, if anyone would volunteer to finish up the daf on their own so we can start tomorrow. But I think tomorrow's daf is a little shorter, so we'll be able to fit it in. Okay, so we have 2 more days to finish Masechet Succah and Masechet. Amen. Have a great day.